As in, I don't have an agenda in front of me.
I've got it pulled up, so you're good to go.
And if possible, could you do the roll for us tonight?
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate
Oh,
that.
all right, Drew, we are streaming and we are recording, so you can begin.
All right. We will call this June 24th, 2021 meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order. We'll do roll here. We'll just kind of go through it. I'll say names and we'll acknowledge presence. Drew Hansen, chair of the committee here. Next up, Julia Williams.
Here.
And Shanna Eilis.
Yes, here.
Chris Myers.
I am here.
Okay. So it doesn't look like we have a quorum for today's meeting. I know that Shannon Knight is out traveling. Other members, probably prepared for the heat wave that's coming in. So totally understandable. The agenda tonight is pretty straightforward. The second item is public comment for non-agenda items. Lynn or Chris, are there any public comments waiting in the wings?
There aren't any public comments.
Okay, so that brings us to item number 3, approval of meeting notes. So Lynn, thank you so much for sharing with the committee meeting notes from September 2020, October 2020, January 2021, February 2021, March 2022, and then I think that might be a typo,
Oops.
and then May 2021. I've read through several of them. Maybe I'll look to Chris. What do you think what is the process on approving these? Looks like we have a bit of a backlog.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about this earlier. We're going to get to a point where we're not going to have enough people on the committee who were at those meetings to approve the notes.
Right.
But
we should. We just need a quorum of people to vote or to rule or whatever we want to call it.
Okay. So
I mean,
in the absence of I was just going to say, in the absence of a quorum, then this seems like this agenda item would have to move to July's meeting.
Yeah, I think so, Lynn. I mean, I know it's a little bit of an annoyance for you, but I think that's where we stand on it. We don't have enough people to actually vote on it, so we carry it forward again.
yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, and Drew, before you move to the next item, I know that Shannon Knight did send me some thoughts about the agenda item tonight. Did she CC you on that?
She did, and I have that pulled up. So once we get to that item, I'll be happy to read through her fairly comprehensive and I think a worthwhile list.
Fantastic.
Okay, so in the absence of a quorum, we will move on from agenda item number 3, which is approval of meeting notes, and head over to agenda item number 4, which is a discussion around the job description or responsibilities for the economic development coordinator position, which is now being referred to as the business support coordinator or liaison. I guess I might have missed that last part. So Shannon Knight did send over some thoughts, but I'll open it up to Julia and Shannon. Co-chair Shannon, if you guys had any comments or thoughts on this, welcome.
No, I'm excited that the position has been approved. So I didn't get a sense from when that would go out, when they would start looking for recruits.
Yeah, Chris, do you have any idea on that?
Honestly, I don't. There hasn't been any real discussion at the staff level, but from what Todd was saying, it sounded like they're trying to get something going within the next, I'm going to say, month or two.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about they're trying to put together a job description and get it posted. So I would also say keep in mind that typically jobs for the city need to be posted 3 to 4 weeks before they're taken down. So just factor in maybe a month to even have it posted online. And then, of course, factor in probably, I don't know, on the long side, 4 to 6 weeks to get through the sifting through applications, getting interviews scheduled, actually interviewing people, that kind of thing. So there's at least 2 to 3 months after the job is written and posted that we'll need to, before we have someone going.
Yeah. So
But no,
I think what I'm wrestling with
sorry,
here is knowing that it's going to be a long-term kind of process, not long-term, but a few months out and everything. And I know that we wanted to potentially provide input into that job description and what's happening, but in the absence of a quorum, I'm going to propose that we gather our thoughts and or send our recommendations, hopefully collectively. Maybe we should be able to do this via email and send it to council through a official, submission of our thoughts and ideas on this. But again, I am happy to discuss this both with Julie and Shannon. And what do you guys think on that? Should we try to have this conversation via email with the rest of the committee, or should we try to get some preliminary thoughts down now?
I think it would behoove us to have everybody's input, but I also think it would help for what Todd just described, which I only got a couple of items written down because he talked really fast. He seems to have an idea for what he wants, and we need to understand what that is before we know how to supplement it with other suggestions. So I think it would be beneficial to get that from him if we can.
Yeah, when Todd, I think there's a lot in a title. Titles aren't everything. It's more in the actions of what people do. But as a starting point, I've had it in my mind as a economic development director, or when we talked about this last month, it was down to a coordinator. And I think that there's certain connotations and expectations that follow with that title. But a business support specialist or coordinator is a little bit different. So yeah, getting a better idea of where Todd is at with this, I think would be very helpful. So I totally agree with you, Julia.
Yeah, I would love to have input, especially since the title does keep changing. I mean, a specialist is a different level than a coordinator, than a director. So having an understanding of what this position will cover and at least help to know who it was reporting to. But I don't know if we can set a time to meet with him or plan to do that at the next meeting, or if this needs to be done before the next meeting, our input.
Go ahead, Chris. I was just going to kind of throw to you about timing on this.
Well, one thought, and actually Lynn brought this up earlier today when she and I were touching base about this meeting tonight, is I do think it would be effective for all of us to put sort of our own thoughts into it and have a larger group conversation. But if we're going to have a group exchange via email, that's actually would be considered a meeting. And we'd have to notice it. I mean, we really can't do that. But what we can do is I would be more than willing to take everyone's thoughts and compile them onto a spreadsheet of some kind. And then we could pass that out to the group and then come back and have a discussion at the next meeting. Did that make sense?
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's individual committee members send thoughts and ideas to Chris Meyer. Chris Meyer will compile those into some form, and then we'll come back as a group in July to discuss what's on paper then.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe what we could try to do would be to see if we can corral a quorum out of that July meeting, even though figure out a way to get enough people here to have a full-fledged conversation, a real meeting.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that obviously I can help with that. Potentially get on the phone and call a couple folks prior to the meeting, see if they can make it and stuff. So that would be good. Okay. So I think that I'll try to put that into an email, or not try to. I'll put that in an email right after this, kind of with that directive of get our thoughts over to Chris so that we can discuss it. But then too, making sure that Todd is on there as well and that he can share his, I guess, maybe vision for this position to kind of help us orient when we're thinking about this. Because I'm reading through Shannon Knight's email here, and a lot of it sounds very economic development centric. So I think maybe her knowing that the title has changed and might be the expectations have changed would potentially change. I don't want to speak on her behalf, but could potentially change what she's written here. So, okay. So,
And I'll just, can I throw out a quick thought here, Drew?
yeah, go ahead.
I know Todd mentioned a couple things when he was kind of going through his list, and there's a few of those, and when we see them, we can obviously talk a little bit more about them. But things like code review, those actually are done by professionals, not by someone who's supporting business. And the reason being is a community development code is very much intertwined. You know, pull this one sentence out of this one piece of code, and you just affected 4 other chapters that you may not know about. So it's actually a very comprehensive process. And actually there, you know, if anyone was around for Cut the Red Tape back in, what was that, 2014, you know, 5 people lost their jobs at the city over that. And that was simply trying to make the code cleaner and simpler. So I think we have to be very careful when we get into things like that are outside of sort of standard business or economic development. The other thing I will say is, and Todd and I don't necessarily agree on this point, is business support is fantastic, but in my opinion, there's a line there between your local government supporting local business and your local government trying to improve the general economy of the community. And I don't know where that line is, but I think that's something for all of us to think about: is at what level are we talking about? What do we mean by support? Like cheering them on, giving them money. You know, I hope we can find someone who can go out and help recruit businesses into the city to help our overall economy, not to go talk to Jose at La Fiesta, who's a great guy and I like his restaurant. But, you know, I mean, where's the line? So that's just something those are 2 thoughts I had, and I'll stop talking.
No, of course, I generally agree with you on that. You know, going into this, and if you look back at my testimony as well, is all about the economic development piece of that. And we are, by name, the Economic Development Committee, who are trying to help broaden the tax base and all this other stuff for the community, and the long-term stability of the community too. So, but in the absence of knowing exactly where Todd's thoughts are on this, I'd like to hear his piece before, you know, saying, hey, does it align or not? So.
Yeah, I would like to know I would like to know more about his thought process, because I think economic development is supporting current businesses, but it's also looking for more opportunities. And how do we do both? Because if businesses are leaving, then they aren't getting the support they need. And if we aren't encouraging other businesses to come to West Linn, then they're not getting support there either, because they've chosen to go somewhere else. So
Right.
I think I think economic development is a key component of this role. And I certainly see where Todd was. I have a sense of his thought process, but I would definitely like to know more.
Yeah. Well, I think too that we have most cities and towns have a mechanism in place for business support, which is the chamber. And that's kind of where the current businesses can go to or lean on for that support. But yes, I think I just really want to hear more of Todd's thought process and vision for this role, because then it might turn into we have a different vision, and that's okay too, and we can provide that different vision and to the council, and maybe we can find alignment down the road.
Great. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think in the absence of a quorum, and we do have a game plan, I feel take this to bombarding Chris with our thoughts, and then coming back to it next month brings us to agenda item number 5, which is when are we going to meet next? What were the results of the doodle poll? Where do we decide? Are we going to meet sooner than later, or is it going to be kind of the same time next month?
Hey, Lynn, do you have the doodle poll results in front of you?
Yeah. So we had the doodle poll. We had 2 people who wanted to move it to Thursday, the second Thursday, and we had 2 people who wanted to keep it on this day, and then we had 2 people who were flexible. So it was a tie.
Excellent.
Well, in the absence of a quorum.
So I think that Todd couldn't make the second Thursday, but Shannon couldn't make this day. So Shannon Ilis.
Yeah, well, I can. I have another meeting that I am missing on the 4th
hmm
Thursday to attend this one. So for me, it would be easy to move it to any other day of the month, literally. This is the only night I have 2 evening meetings. So, but this is where my priority is. So the other meeting is the West Linn Alliance, and they meet on the 4th Thursday.
Okay.
Right.
So
I thought we were looking at the 3rd Thursday, not the 2nd Thursday, but
one thing to consider is that the reason we ended up on this particular day, the 4th Thursday, and we were on the 2nd Thursday previously for quite some time, was COVID, and we had to move because too many meetings, and we didn't have enough webs or access to hold multiple meetings at the same time. So we at the EDC were asked to move off of our previous date and time to today, or the 4th Thursday, so that we could have that access, or the city wouldn't have an issue. So I think ultimately it's just we're being asked to move it back to where it was, is really what the ask is. And the only other part of that ask is, do we really want to do it at 6:30, or should we have a 6 o'clock meeting like almost every other meeting in the city? So those are just things to think about.
Hey, Julia, how did you vote? I'm just curious if you're okay sharing.
I was one of the flexible ones.
Flexible, I think I voted 2nd Thursday. I'm okay moving it to 2nd. I think I voted 4th Thursday. Sorry, I'm okay moving it to 2nd Thursday and then bumping it to 6 rather than 6:30. I don't know. Where would that put us at, Lynn, if Julie and I kind of went that route?
Okay, so right now we had Russell could only do it the first Thursdays, and he declined this meeting. Julie was flexible. Todd can't make the second Thursdays, and Bob Lauren cannot make the second Thursday. So
Can we throw out the 1st and 3rd Thursdays?
you can't do the 3rd Thursday because we have too many meetings that week.
What about 1st Thursday?
The 1st Thursday.
That would be literally next week.
Maybe we can get a quorum then.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't ask anybody about that, but
Yeah.
so that's up to you if you want to. I could doodle poll again.
So then why don't we do this? I think that's the right move, is let's narrow it down and then doodle poll out with 1st Thursday as well. I don't think we would meet next week. That's way too soon. But that's only 5 weeks out if we waited, to the next 1st Thursday. But maybe another doodle poll then with we'll it seems like everyone's okay with 6 o'clock. So we can get maybe a couple of 6 o'clock options, like the 1st, the 2nd, I don't know. I guess keep the 4th on there. I don't know that we're gonna be allowed to stay on the 4th, but
Yeah.
Well, Drew is the only one who said he couldn't make a 6 o'clock meeting.
oh,
Me?
sorry.
Oh, I'm
You
fine
didn't
with
click
it.
any. You
I
didn't.
think I have more flexibility than I thought, so I'm fine
Okay.
with the 6.
and I'm good with either time. I mean,
Yeah.
6 or 6:30 doesn't matter to me. I can be flexible.
I think it's really important that we do have council presence or representation during our meetings, because I feel we keep running into issues or inability to move forward on things because we're looking for their input. So ultimately, I think within some bounds, I guess maybe we look to Todd to kind of set the set when we have this, but making sure that others, that we can actually have a quorum and it works with other people's, other committee members' schedules.
Drew, if you'd like, I could certainly reach out to Todd and just see what options he happens to have, like what available days and times he does have, and see if any of that meshes with what we're thinking.
I think that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, because I do agree. It would be really beneficial to have our council liaison at as many meetings as possible. I mean, realizing that their life is already meeting pretty full of meetings, but would love to have them here. It's more productive, and it seems like Todd is very much a proponent of this committee in particular. So maybe I can just reach out to him via email and say, hey, can you give us a few options that you would be available, and let's see if we can make any of those line up with what we're trying to do.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we have a go forward on that then. So we're going to do a check with Todd and his times, and then I guess maybe relay what we said here. I know, Lynn, you might have taken some notes on the next doodle poll. So maybe share that with Todd. Say, hey, this is what we kind of talked about. This is what we landed on with the last doodle poll. Potentially looking at the first Thursday, so on and so forth. Any other comments on that item?
No, that sounds great.
Okay, that brings us to number 7 on the list, which is to adjourn the meeting. However, Shannon, I know that you regularly attend the Clackamas County EDC meeting. Was there anything that came out of that is worthy to report back to this committee?
I can certainly send out the economic information. I got it yesterday, so it wasn't in time for it to be sent out to everyone, but I can certainly send it out. It hasn't changed. It has continued to improve. Our unemployment rate is down to 5.5%, which I believe was the same as last month, but significantly more jobs have come online in every facet. So
Nice.
last month there were some that were still lagging, but there's been a growth in jobs from this time last year, actually of about 15%. I think it was 14.5. I didn't bring my notes with me on the plane, but I believe it's 14.5% across the board, which is wonderful. And so that is looking good. There was a very long presentation on agriculture. Being Clackamas is one of the premier agriculture centers of not only Oregon, but the country, and for hazelnuts and some other things, the world. I'll send that out. I'm not going to go over it, but it is, and I don't know, actually that was a question I had. I don't know how much agriculture plays in West Linn economics. They didn't go town by town, so I thought that would be an interesting question, but definitely something we would want to support if that were the case. And there was, and it ended yesterday, but there's another round coming up soon of grants for minority-owned and women-owned businesses. And in this round, it was a grant of $7,500 to help any business that was impacted by COVID, from 1 to 25 employees, so small businesses. And they had 300 applicants as of the meeting yesterday. And this is just, I think that was just Clackamas County. That may have been other areas. Don't quote me on that. But the good news is there is more money coming. There will be another round. And I will hopefully get that information a little sooner so that it can be shared. I don't know if there's a place on any website for West Linn. I mean, I posted it on the West Linn community page, but I don't know if there's other places to post grants like that. That's it.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of positive news coming out of that meeting, so that's all good. I do have that same question about agriculture in West Linn. What role does that play? My assumption is very little, but I could be wrong.
It could be wrong. Yes, or maybe someone lives in West Linn but owns
Oh, true.
a Christmas tree farm. I mean, there are
Mhm.
Christmas tree farms, as I say, that Pete's Mountain. So there are some.
Mhm.
There is some agriculture in West Linn in the outer areas, but that's about
Yeah.
it.
Okay. I appreciate that update. Before we adjourn, I'll just say, I'll do a little bit of outreach to other committee members and see if we can, get our quorum back going. I feel it's been a couple meetings that we really haven't been able to move forward on items due to minimal participation. So, I know everybody's busy. There's a lot going on, so we'll just try to, bring us all together again. Anything else, Julia?
Are we thinking about meeting in person at any point, or is this?
That is a great question. I was thinking about that earlier. Thank you for bringing that up. Lynn, Chris, what's the status? Yeah, when can we get together?
So what we're hearing is that there's some discussion that tentative discussion that September is looking like the month when we'll be doing some in-person meetings. I'm not entirely sure if that means committee meetings or if that just is public hearings for the planning commission and the city council. But it does sound like we're probably not going to be doing it July or August. But at least having discussions and moving forward. I think the concern is just what does it look like? What are the safety concerns? What do we need to do to the council chambers, to the conference rooms? What does anything need to happen before we can get people in? So, but typical government, we're moving at glacial speed on that one, but that's okay. I mean, I think the hope is sometime in the fall we should be back to meeting in person, which would be great. It's so much more productive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have any updates on Oppenlander or food trucks? We had talked about those last month.
Yeah, nothing new to report. Oppenlander, it sounds like the school district is saying, yeah, we'll give you time to put it on the November ballot. I think there is some concern that November is really, really soon. And that maybe there's discussion about possibly trying to move it to the May ballot instead, so that a more appropriate decision and information can be put out in a timely fashion. And then as far as food trucks, yeah, they're moving forward. Just talked to their architect today. They are doing it in 2 phases. They'll do the trucks themselves, should be on site, within a month or two. They need to put in the utilities first, and they'll get the trucks up. And then they're going to go through a land use process to start renovating the building and building out the wine and beer and cider bar inside. So 2 phases, but their goal is to have an active, food truck sort of pod, somewhat functioning sometime this summer. So that's progress.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it is owned by local folks who live in the area, live nearby. I was telling their architect today, I've spoken to, I've had the mayor, 2 city councilors, the city manager, the deputy. I mean, everyone is showing support. Everyone is asking about it. Everyone wants it. It was in the paper this week. So, and they want to move as fast as they can, because obviously they're holding onto a mortgage now for that site, or however they paid for it. But they want to get it active too. So we should see some activity this summer, which I think is outstanding. So moving forward.
Love that. So if
Yeah.
a truck wants to apply for a spot in the pod, I don't know the process. Do they apply to the city?
No. Yeah,
where do
it's
they
a it's a privately held property. I assume it would be very similar to applying for a job at a restaurant or something. So they would need to contact the owners of the site, and whatever process they set up is what they're going to set up. Now, keeping in mind, they'll still have things like, any truck will need to have their Clackamas County Health and the things that you would normally have. But all those food trucks will have those and then each of the trucks would need to apply for a West Linn business license, which are relatively inexpensive, under $200. And that's easy to do. It's quick. So that shouldn't hold anyone up either. So, yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm excited. We've been wanting this for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Food.
Very good. All right. Any other items for today's EDC meeting?
Nope.
Nope. Well, I will move to adjourn. Like I said, I'll do some outreach to other members, see if we can get some folks here next month. And then in the meantime, to send out the email, just kind of detailing the process for getting Chris some ideas about our business support coordinator and or specialist. So, all right. Well, with that, everybody, I know it's going to be a potentially record-breaking heat wave coming through. So